going to begin a speech which focuses on visual presentation. This is Turk's first presentation to our group, and if what I hear is true, this should be an exciting and powerful presentation. Turk is the living example of the standard American immigrant story. He landed in America a week after his 17th birthday with a suitcase, $200, and a phone number, and of course, he had no language skills whatsoever. He claims he knew America was a place for round pigs like him in the square world, and he jumped right into the American way with all 4 feet. This U.S. Air Force veteran says, don't expect him to give you the answers. His goal is for the audience to leave his talks with deeper questions to ponder. And that's where the magic happens. I'm sure this won't be a lackluster speech. Please help me to welcome Turk at
No pressure about the lackluster, but I have no promises for the slide presentation. Fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guests, this happens to be my first time speaking in front of you. If my accent starts making me dizzy, just taking deep breaths, you'll be okay. Let's see if my slide projector works, and I expect it to. 3, 2, 1, go. Very good. Newsflash. Fluorescent lighting is bad for your soul. But fellow Toastmasters, before we can go any further, I want to make sure what I say and what you hear are the same things. So at least I want to be on the same page with you all. And therefore, we have to agree on 4 premises before we go. For those of you who are programmers, this is considered known issues. First, each word is a fault. When I say orange, you're likely to be thinking an orange, not an ape. So I'm assuming that we have the same, we're using the same verbiage. 2, our realities are based on personal experiences, and therefore they're subjective. What I mean by that is someone who's done, I don't know, Peace Corps in Timbuktu versus someone who's a CEO of Bank of America in Charlotte will have completely different life experiences. Therefore, the realities are going to be a little bit different. So please don't think that your reality is the only reality in the world. Third, words don't teach. Life experiences does. Right. So, going back to the childhood, and I'll tell you about this. I'm sure your parents have told you many times the stove, or in my case, the iron is hot. So I'm 4 years old, and we had a nanny, and nannies are in the clothes. Maybe I was 3, I'm not sure. I'm like, what are you doing? She says, I'm ironing. What's ironing? She says, it gets the wrinkles out. Huh. I waited a few seconds for the nanny to leave, and I quickly grabbed the iron, and I wanted to iron all my wrinkles in my hands. It was very funny later on. So the moral of that story, the words of telling me the iron being hot had no meaning, but the life taught me. And of course, 4th, life is a one-way street. I hope every one of us is aware at one point, for sure, no doubt, every one of us are going to die. So therefore, this one is not a dress rehearsal. You're actually living in your life. So, are we able to agree on these 4 points among us? Yes? Yes? Cool. We're moving on. Remember, we were talking about the fluorescent lighting being bad for your soul. For me, in my opinion, in my travels, I classify people in 2 types. Employee and entrepreneurs. But they look like the same person. One slightly bigger than the other. But other than that, from the external, they're the same kinds of people. When you look at them, you can tell an entrepreneur from an employee. But there are vastly different ways to look at the world. They have vastly different ways of kind of figuring things out by themselves or being told. So where do we train our people? Where does one become an employee or an entrepreneur? Well, let's cover about the differences. The employee is a person who works for money. Entrepreneur is a person who refuses to work for money as long as somebody's telling him or her what to do. I'm an entrepreneur. I'd rather work 24 hours a day for free for myself than work for anyone for, I don't know, however many. You can pay me enough. So there's a slight difference. But where does this come from? Can it be taught? Sure. But unfortunately, not in America's education system. Our education system was designed in 1920 for the first time. 1920. How many of you were born in 1920? That's kind of bizarre, right? Yeah, that's our education. Our future is depending on that. But we're Americans, USA, USA. We like to innovate stuff. We like to, fix things up. We like to make things new and improve. So we're not going to leave our education system in 1920s. We're going to have it new and improved in 1945. And our education system has not changed since then. 1945. Now, some of you may have born by then, so I'm not going to ask you. But this is roughly around Second World War. And our education system has not changed since. And so it's designed to do what? Good industrial employees, soldiers, and followers of the system. Second World War, Cold War. It's still required back then for our people to not question and actually work this system. It's all good. But this was then. We're in the 21st century now. All right? So let's talk about the word bondage. Means state of being a slave. Now, we all know some bondage is okay. Some bondage is not. Now, there is even more dangerous bondage. Oh, poor elephant, right? Now, what kind of bondage is that? Because that, however big that elephant is, surely can break this chain. But it was trained at an early age, just like our students do in the school. Don't do it. Don't try it. Because when the elephant is small, it tugs, 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 and there comes a point it stops. Just as our kids, they have to follow the system, otherwise they don't accept. Mental bondage. It's the worst kind of bondage you can have. And this is the language of mental bondage. Easy word, job security, quality of life, no-brainer way, and bird in hand is always better than one in the bush. If this is your vocabulary, you may be in mental bondage. Please be aware. Mental bondage. I'm working for that. Right? So this is how it works. Employer, employee, an entrepreneur. When you are an entrepreneur, you actually see the big picture. You actually transcend the whole interaction of the employer and employee. You're the one who creates things. You're the one that comes up with who's going to be employer, paying what, and who's going to be employee. This, and only this, can set us free. Free from the bondage of others, free from the bondage of money, free from the bondage of your boss, and most importantly, free from bondage of your mental slavery, if that's happening. But what does that require? Requirements for entrepreneurship is really 4 things. It never changes. I've been doing this for many years. And if I'm successful in one business, I ruin 100 businesses. So I learn from my mistakes. Desire for better is the hallmark of entrepreneurs. What that means is I want more from myself, I want more from you, and I want more from the universe. Being okay with bruise and or bleeding is another hallmark of an entrepreneur. You just have to go. What we say, anything worth doing is worth doing lousy a few times. It's totally okay for you guys to get banged up, fail, no problem. Just remember, keep going forward, so you'll be going forward. Having a vision is important. You cannot be an entrepreneur and say, I just don't want to work. It won't work like that. You can't say, I'm going to be an entrepreneur because I want to make a shitload of money. It won't work like that. It has to be for a service. It has to be for something better. And that's the only way. So, you have to have a vision for that. And of course, you have to have faith. Because I tell you, every person you know, your parents, your loved ones, your kids, are going to say, stop. Can you not see there is no path where you're trying to go? They're trying to do the right thing for you. They're trying to say, yo, relax. We just want you to be happy. Remember, mental bondage. When you're in it, you don't know. So be okay being uncomfortable. And of course, you have to have faith. This is the most important part. Every time someone says, hey, you're banging your head on the wall, you should be able to say, nope, I know exactly where I'm going. So, this is the drop that hopefully is entered into your brain. Please, don't be okay. Don't be complacent. This is America. We can do it. Yes, we can. Yes, we can.